こんばんは、皆さん。こんばんは、Vince des. Good evening, everyone. So today, this is Vince Sensei と申します。Okay, so today, this is Nihongo lesson number 0016, and we will be discussing the topic, the negative form of a verb, or negative verbs, or negative conjugation of a verb. And now that we have seen how to declare things and perform actions with verbs, we want to be able to say the negative or the negative form of these verbs. In other words, we want to say that such and such action was not performed. So remember that nuance. The negative conjugation or negative form of the verbs that we will be discussing will have the meaning that a certain verb, when transformed to its negative conjugation, will have the meaning was not performed or was not done. This is done by conjugating the verb to the negative form, just like the state of being for nouns and adjectives. However, the rules are a tad more complicated. So the first time that we have encountered conjugation is, remember that Nihongo lesson that we have discussed. I think the lesson with the declarative da and the janai, janakata. We have a Nihongo lesson to that. I think it's Nihongo lesson number 006, if I'm not mistaken. We have a lesson about the basic conjugation, the da and the janai and janakata. So that Nihongo lesson that we have tackled. So today, what we will be dealing is the conjugation of the verbs to its negative form. So on the previous lessons, if you're following this channel, we have discussed conjugation to this and conjugating to the negative form. So today we will be dealing again with this conjugation. So what do we mean by this conjugation? What is again conjugation? Conjugation is so let's define first what is that conjugation. What is conjugation? Conjugation is a term used in learning Nihongo that describes the process of dropping or removing hiragana characters from a kunyomi reading or from a particular set of hiragana characters, and then replacing the it referring to the removed or dropped hiragana, and then replacing that dropped character with either a single hiragana character or a set of hiragana characters. The easiest example of conjugation is given in our Nihongo lesson number 0006 of this YouTube channel. Conjugation is, why do we need to study conjugation? Conjugation is a very essential skill, a very essential skill in learning Nihongo or Japanese language. Because if we execute this correctly, when executed correctly, the narrator or speaker is able to express the appropriate or accurate intention, the correct tense of a verb, form of a verb, nuance of a phrase or words, and even expressing the accurate and even giving the accurate comprehension of the thought or context of a sentence or of a clause. So that's conjugation. Let's go back again to the meaning. Okay, so conjugation is basically you have to drop or remove some hiragana and replace it with appropriate hiragana according to tense, according to the intention, according to the correct form. So in this particular case, we'll be conjugating the verbs into its negative form. So let's first discuss vocabulary. Vocabulary or goi. Vocabulary in Nihongo is goi. Aru, a U verb. And once again, U verb. Let's refresh ourselves. The U verb okay, because we've discussed this, right? The U verb or godan verb, yeah, because we've discussed that the previous lesson discussed the, aside from the stem of a verb, the classification of verbs. The ru verb is what we call the ichidan verb, and the U verb is also godan verbs in other textbooks. So okay, going back to that lesson. The verbs in this table are the special case of iru-eru. They end in iru-eru but are not U verbs, but they are U verbs or godan verbs. The U verb here is also called godan verbs in other textbooks. The ru verb here is also the ichidan in other verbs. So the U verb here is also godan verb in other references or textbooks. The ru verb here is also called ichidan verb in other textbooks or reference books. Okay, so aru meaning to exist. So you have to be careful for verb of existence or to exist verbs. You only use aru for inanimate things like ideas or feelings or anything that don't have anima, anything that don't have life. But for things that are animate or things that have anima or life, you use iru. So things that are inanimate or doesn't have life, or let's say abstract ideas, the things, thoughts, you use aru to denote verb of existence. And if not, if it is with anima or living things like persons, you use iru. And iru is a ru verb or ichidan verb. Aru is a U verb or godan verb. So continuing on our vocabulary, taberu, to eat, kau, to buy, matsu, to wait, suru, an exception verb. We have discussed this before. Exception verb meaning to do. Exception because we call this exception verb because based on our rules for the extraction of stem and based on the rules for the past tense, which we will be discussing later on for past tense, the suru have a different form for past tense. So it has it belongs to the exception for the traditional conjugation to the past tense or te form of a verb. Kuru, just like suru, is also an exception verb because they don't belong in the traditional ruling for the transformation of a verb from the dictionary form to its past tense or te form. So what we are seeing here are all dictionary forms. Dictionary forms of verb ends in you can see that it ends in the u sound, usually u sound. if you remember the Kana table, it's usually on the U sound, just like this. Iru, ending in the having a U vowel sound at the end part. Aru, iru, taberu, kau, matsu, suru, kuru. These are the base form of verb or plain form, or commonly known as the dictionary form of a verb. So the dictionary form is the base form or plain form of the verb, and it is also called the dictionary form. So all of these are dictionary forms or base forms or plain form of the verb. Kuru, miru, these are dictionary forms. So to sleep, neru, also a dictionary form. Neru is a ru verb. Neru is a ru verb. Okay, so sorry for that noise. Okay, so neru is a ru verb or ichidan verb meaning to sleep, and okiru also a dictionary form. So all of these verbs are in dictionary forms. U sounding verbs. U sounding for the plain form. Neru to sleep, okiru also a ru verb meaning to wake or something to occur, something to happen. Kangairu, to think. Oshieru, also a ru verb or ichidan, to teach. Deru, also a ru verb. Deru, also a ru verb meaning to come out. Okay, continuing. Hikichizuki, continuing. Deru, a ru verb or ichidan verb meaning to come out. Kiru, also a ru verb or ichidan verb meaning to wear. Kiru. Hanasu, hanasu, a U verb or a godan verb. U verb or godan verb meaning to speak. And kiku, kiku is a U verb or godan verb meaning to ask, to listen. Oyogu, oyogu, a U verb or godan verb meaning to swim. Asobu, also a U verb meaning to play, a U verb or godan verb. And then nomu, to drink. Kairu, U verb meaning to go home. Kairu. So you must remember also that there are verbs ending in eru but are not ichidan or not ru verb, but are U verbs or godan verbs. Or there are a few exceptions. So we've already discussed that in our previous lessons concerning the classification of verbs. So kairu are among the exceptions for the iru eru that are godan verbs and not considered ichidan verbs. Shinu is a U verb or godan verb meaning to die. Okane, okane is not a verb but a noun. Okane is money. Watashi, watashi is a pronoun for meaning me, myself, I. Neko, neko is noun. Cat. And now we will now make sure of the verb classifications we learned in the last section to define the rules for conjugation. But before we get into that, we need to cover one very important exception to the verb conjugation rules, aru. Aru is a godan verb or U verb meaning to exist for inanimate things or things that doesn't have life, like thought, idea, or abstract things. Iru is a ru verb or ichidan verb meaning also to exist or verb of existence for animate things or things with anima or with life, just like persons. Okay, so it just said here, it just confirmed that aru is a U verb or godan verb used to express existence for inanimate things. The equivalent verb for animate objects such as people or animals is iru, which is a normal ru verb. For example, if you wanted to say that a chair in that a chair is in the room. So chair is a thing that don't have anima or non-living. So a chair is in the room, you would use aru. A chair exists. So the verb of existence for the chair is aru. But if you wanted to say that a person is in the room, you must use the verb iru. Let's say a student is inside the room. Gakusei nga iru. Gakusei nga iru. Ano heya ni gakusei nga iru. These two verbs, aru and iru, they're both verbs of existence. This aru and iru are quite different from other verbs because they describe existence and are not actual actions. Actually, this aru and iru, they're not these are kind of verbs that don't need direct objects. So if you recall in your English lessons that verbs that require direct object or something that the verb has to do its action on are called transitive verbs. And this aru and iru, they don't require a direct objects, so they are intransitive verbs. Aru and iru are quite different from all other verbs because they describe existence and not actual actions. But nonetheless, they are called verbs and actually giving the meaning verb of existence or something exists. You also need to be careful to choose the correct one based on animate or inanimate objects. Anyway, the reason I bring it up here because the negative of aru is nai. So the negative form of aru is nai. Or based on our lesson on the mass stem of a verb or extraction of a stem of a verb. So aru is a godan verb or yu verb. So you remove that ru and replace that ru with its I sound counterpart in the Kana table. So what's the I sound for ru? Ri. So ari is the mass stem of the verb, and you put to give the nuance nai or negative, you add from the stem the masen. So ari masen, but the contracted form or short form of the ari masen is nai. So remember, please bear in mind the negative form of aru is nai, meaning that something, not someone, something does not exist. The conjugation rules for all other verbs are listed below as a list of example verbs and their negative forms. So take note, we will place an asterisk. Asterisk is placed for the exception verbs particular only to this conjugation lesson. So the asterisk here will denote exceptions that is only particular to this particular conjugation rule. Okay, so please screenshot this important summary table. So minasan, please screenshot this summary technique or summary conjugation for the ru verbs or ichidan verbs, and and also take the screenshot for the yu verbs that end in yu verbs or godan verbs. So for godan verbs, specifically the one that has explicitly stating the yu, explicitly indicating the yu. So the yu, when I say explicitly stated, it has to be explicitly seen in the whole kunyomi reading. So the whole reading is the kanji and then the okurigana. I will put in the description box what is an okurigana. So kanji plus okurigana, that's the usual thing you will see in the kanji in its kunyomi reading. So for you verbs, you can see that the okurigana is very explicit on displaying its u on the rightmost part. So for godan verbs or u verbs ending in u, the simple rule is first replace that u with wa. Then after you replace that u with wa, and then attach nai. So example, this verb cow meaning to buy. So what is the negative form? What is the negative form for this verb cow meaning buy? So again, drop the u first and replace that u with wa, and then after you replace that u with wa, you add nai. So the cow becomes kawanai, and there you go. You have the negative form for the cow. For all other u verbs, replace the u vowel sound with the a vowel equivalent and attach nai. Okay, may I repeat that one? For all other u verbs or for all other godan verbs other than this godan verb with explicitly stated u in its kunyomi form, for all other u verbs, first replace that u vowel or u sounding part with the a counterpart in the, remember the kana writing table. So let's say in kakeki, kakuki, keko. So replace the u part with the a counterpart vowel equivalent, the a counterpart or a vowel equivalent, and then after you replace that u with the a counterpart or a vowel equivalent in the kana table, and then attach nai. So let's have an example. Let's say the word matsu, mats meaning wait, matsu. So tsu, the matsu, the rightmost part of matsu, it's su. So that su, based on the kana writing table, what is the a counterpart or a vowel sound, a vowel equivalent for the tsu? It's ta based on the kana writing table. So matsu, I drop the tsu and replace it with its a vowel equivalent or a counterpart. Tsu belongs to the column ta, te, chi, to, tsu. So the tsu replaced by the a vowel equivalent, it becomes ta. So that ta, we place that on the right of, you replace that tsu with the ta. So the matsu becomes matta, and then finally attach the nai, attach nai. So the matsu becomes matta, and the matta plus nai, matanai. So meaning unable to wait or cannot wait, matanai. Hikitsuzuki mina. Okay, let's continue, minasan, everyone. Conjugation rules again. So please screenshot this tabulated summary for the rules. So again, continuing, for the matsu, what's the negative form? Drop that u sound, tsu, replace it with the a vowel equivalent or a counterpart in the kana writing table. That tsu is actually has an a counterpart of ta. So the matsu becomes mata, and then finally what it says, attach nai. So mata plus nai, mata nai. So that's the negative form of matsu. So exception verbs, suru. So it's not suranai, but rather the suru doesn't follow the traditional rule for the conjugation. The suru is not suranai, but rather shinai. The kuru is not kuranai, kuru meaning to come, is not kuranai, but rather, please remember this, konai. So again, for suru, negative form, shinai. Suru is shinai. Suru is to do, or shinai will not do. Kuru is to come, also exception verbs. Kuru is not kuranai, but konai. Aru, aru, not aranai, but in this particular conjugation rule, it's not aranai. The aru in its negative form becomes nai, or arimasen, based on our lesson, on the previous lesson on the extraction of stem of a verb. So aru, I changed that aru in the ru becomes ri, ari, plus the masen, meaning the negative conjugation for the formal form, because nai is the contracted form and the formal form is masen. So mas stem or extracted stem plus masen. So the aru becomes ari plus extracted stem plus the masen, extracted stem, which is ari plus masen, arimasen. So arimasen is the long form or the keigo form or formal form for nai, because nai here is a contracted form. In later lessons, we will discuss this keigo form, or the not the contracted, but the keigo is the formal form of speaking in Japanese, because what we see here, shinai, konai, there are shinai, konai, and nai. They are the contracted form and cannot be considered keigo or formal form. So let's summarize again in a tabulated form. Negative form conjugation examples. So again, may I reiterate again, the ru verb category here in this reference, the ru verb category here is also known as ichidan in other books. In the yu verb category here for verbs, yu verb category here is also known as godan verbs in other books or references. So negative form conjugation examples, ru verbs or ichidan verbs. So this miru, taberu, neru, these are all ichidan verbs or ru verbs. So it's simple. So miru becomes minai. So we have escaped this part. So for ru verbs or ichidan verbs, again what it says here, drop the ru, and after you drop the ru, replace that ru with the nai, replace it with nai. Example, the dictionary form taberu. First I will drop the ru, so it becomes tabe plus nai. So the end result, so taberu, drop the ru, and then add nai. So the tabe plus nai, tabe nai. And then again, for yu verbs, godan verbs with explicitly stating yu, like cow, first drop that yu and replace it with wa, and then finally attach nai, like cow. So I drop that yu, so kawa plus nai, kawa nai. And then for all other godan verbs, replace the yu vowel sound at the rightmost part, replace it with the a vowel equivalent or a counterpart in the Kana table, just like here in mats, matanai. So again, please, minasan, please screenshot this table so that you will have a cheat sheet for our negative form conjugation. So for ru verbs or ichidan verbs, miru becomes minai, taberu becomes tabenai, neru becomes nenai, okiru becomes okinai, kangaeru becomes kangenai. So again, the U sounding forms are the dictionary forms or plain forms. Kangaeru, kangaenai, oshieru, oshienai, deru, denai, kiru, kinai, iru, inai, iru, inai. So question, what about ghost? What about ghosts? Ghosts and spirits, we can regard them as let's say a relative is already dead and you believe that the ghost is the spirit and that spirit is the soul or ghost of that relative of yours, and then you can use the iru form, I mean for animal things. So ghost of your relatives you can use, or ghost of someone you can regard that as something with anima, and hence you can use iru to denote verb of existence. So iru inai. So u verb or godan verb. Hanasu. So for ichidan verbs, quite easy for ru verb or ichidan verb. So also please remember this some basic examples of ru verbs or ichidan verbs. Miru, tabiru. What did you notice? It is a usual pattern of someone who works or someone who goes to school. First after you went home from school or work, you will look for, let's say, what's your dinner. You will look, and then if you don't want to look, minai. So you want to look. These are the basic forms, usually in something that happened inside your home. After you came home, you look, and then you eat your dinner, taberu. Then after you eat dinner, you sleep, neru. Then after you sleep, you wake up, okiru. Then after you wake up, you will plan for what is ahead of your day. Kangaeru, you will plan for that day. And then after you plan, you will tell probably your spouse or your mother. Oshieru, you will tell them what is your plan for that day. And then finally, after you prepare, you come out of your house. Deru. And then but before you come out of a house, you kiru, you wear your clothes, or probably your jacket, or you wear your shoes, kiru. And then after that, you become existing inside your school or existing inside your office, iru, or existing inside your genba, workplace, iru. So that's my mnemonics for these simple examples, fundamental examples of ichidan verbs. Because I'll tell you frankly, for me, the population of the u verbs or godan verbs they're existing in greater population rather than in ru verbs. So ru verbs or ichidan verbs are lesser in number when it comes to vocabulary compared to u verbs or godan verbs. So basic examples of ru verb or ichidan verb: you come home, you look for your relatives, tadaima and miru, and you find your dinner, miru, and then you eat the dinner, taberu, you sleep, and then you wake up, okiru, and then you think about your plans, they tell about your plans, and then deru, but before you deru, you kiru, you first wear your clothes, then deru, come out of your house, and then finally iru, now existing in your workplace, now existing in your school. So all other verbs, because u verbs exist in greater numbers when it comes to populace of the verbs in the vocabulary. So hanasu. So what is said in the summary of techniques for transforming into conjugation of the negative? The u sound will be transformed into its a equivalent or a counterpart. So what is the a counterpart of su? Sa. And then after you first drop that u sound, so su, we drop that su, and then we replace it with the a counterpart for the a counterpart in the Kana table. So the a counterpart or a equivalent sound for su is sa. Hanasu is hanasa plus nai. Finally attach the nai. So hanasu becomes hanasanai. Kiku or to listen, kikanai. Oyogu. So I drop the gu sound because it's a u and replace it with the a counterpart or a equivalent of the gu. Oyogu meaning to swim, oyoganai. Asobu, asobanai. Matsu, matanai. Nomu, nomanai. Cow. So this is for cow. So gojuu-on verbs or u verbs with explicitly stated u at the right side part. First, in this case, we drop that explicit u and we replace it with wa. Finally, attach nai. So cow, kawanai. Kairu meaning to return, kairu, kairanai. So because the ra is the a counterpart of the ru. So kairu, kaira plus 9, kairanai. Shinu, shinanai. So exception verbs, suru, not suranai but shinai, because this part is the exception part. So we will not apply the existing techniques for the u verb and u verb. So the exception verbs are suru, kuru, and aru. So for suru, shinai, kuru meaning to come, konai, aru simply transform into nai. And so examples, we learn by examples. Sometimes there are people who learn by examples because our IQ, we all have IQ. Any people have IQ. Our IQ, there are people whose brain are more wired to learning by examples. Here are other example sentences from the last section. Conjugated to the negative form. Okay. Aris watabenai, meaning as for Alice, does not eat. Jimu nga asobanai. Jimu is the one that does not lay. Remember the ga? The ga is an identifier particle, and ga, ga is the identifier particle, and in other books they name the particle ga as the subject marker. So the subject here is Jim. So the ga is marking Jim as the subject because ga is not just an identifier particle, it is also a subject marker, and Jim is the subject here. Jimu nga asobanai. In other reference book and other examples, the particle ga also denotes that in most cases, but most cases or in many cases, ga will denote to be will indicate the doer of the action, but not always, because for passive form of sentence, that sometimes the ga will not necessarily mark the doer of the action. In such cases, if we talk about passive sentences, there are cases that ga will just simply mean to be the marker of the subject. Jimu nga asobanai. Bobu mo shinai. Mo is a inclusive particle, or include also Bob to the one that will not do. Shinai is will not do. So bobu mo shinai, meaning include also Bob to be the one that will not do. Bob also does not do, because mo is an inclusive particle, or meaning include also Mr. Bob. Okane nga nai. Binbo janai ka. Binbo. No money. Binbo janai ka. Okane nga nai, meaning there's no money. Okane nga nai. Or literally translating, money is the thing that does not exist. Watashi wa kawanai. As for me, I will not buy it. As for me, watashi wa, as for me, I will not buy it. Watashi wa kawanai. neko wa inai. Or as for the cat, it doesn't exist. Cat is a thing with anima. Cat is a living thing, so we don't use aru here, we use iru. And what is again the negative form of the verb of existence, iru? What is the negative form of iru? It's inai. And neko is an anima thing or animate thing. So neko, what it uses iru, and what is again the negative form of iru? Inai. So neko wa inai. So there is no cat. Or in literal translation, as for cat does not exist. As for cat does not exist. So in the next lesson, so that's probably lesson number 0018. So because this is lesson number 0016, in the lesson number 0018 we will be discussing about past tense. For today, we've just discussed the negative form. So please, minasan, may I again ask you to please screenshot this cheat sheet for the negative conjugation from the dictionary form. These are the dictionary forms. From the dictionary form to the negative form. And please screenshot that, minasan. Screenshot to the side. And also please screenshot this summary table, summary in tabulated form, or summary in a cheat sheet form. Conjugation rules for the negative form of a verb. For ru verbs or ichidan verbs, simply drop the ru, attach the nai, tabiru comes tabi nai. And for the u verbs, in particular, those verbs with an explicit u at its right part, like the cow or buy, so the u is explicit in its right part. Replace the u, drop that u, and replace it with wa, and then attach nai, like cow comes kawanai. And for all other godan verbs, or for all other u verbs, replace the u vowel sound with its a equivalent or a counterpart in the Kana writing table. And then after you replace that with the a counterpart, you attach nai, like matsu. Matsu is a dictionary form, matsu. And then you drop the tsu, replace it with the a counterpart ta, finally attach nai. So matsu, mata, mata nai. So exception verbs, suru, shinai, kuru, konai, aru, nai. And aru, you only use that for things that are without anima or non-living things. So that's it for now. 最後まで見てくれてありがとうございます。Thank you for watching until the end. So these are again the examples. On the next lesson, we'll be discussing the past tense conjugation of a verb. So 最後まで見てくれてありがとうございました。ご視聴くださり誠にありがとうございます。みんな。So until the next one, we will see you. また次の動画で。ありがとうみんな。今日ここまでです。That's it for now. みんなありがとうございます。Till then, bye bye. ありがとう。